All right, welcome to the live stream, everybody. Today, we're doing Q&A as normal. First question up is in response to basically comments on the last video, which was, well, not the exact last video, but one before that when I scheduled this, the one where I worked on the 800-gallon tank and how the filter was so dirty and all of that, and comments like your water quality must be terrible, stuff like that. And so as I was responding to people and trying to explain, like, those don't necessarily go hand in hand at all. I thought, this would make a good kind of question to answer because in a one-on-one situation, conversation, camera, and myself, I can explain it a lot better than trying to type out, well, you should factor in this and this and this and this and this. And also on top of that, so I did reply to those people, and then I was testing the water actually because we installed CO2, right? So I was testing the water because my plants hadn't really started to take off yet. And I was like, okay, well, time to do more investigation. And turns out nitrates are lower than 10. So there's more than 0, but less than 10. There's like almost no food in there for those plants. I believe them to routinely be running out, or at least starving and not enough food around for them to really be thriving, going, hey, we should get a lot bigger. So after testing the water with the test strips, that's how I found out. And I was like, okay, you would think that a filter that dirty where it's just caked up would lead to lots of nitrates. The reality is waste that is already decomposed, already broken down by bacteria, already maybe broken down by snails and other little, organisms in our aquarium. After it's all been through all of that, it's kind of an inert substance. I mean, it's not 100% inert, but it's fairly inert. I mean, I can't find a better way to explain it than it doesn't really do anything after that. Now, that being said, when a fish goes to the bathroom, it is going to release basically stuff into the water that ends up being nitrogen or nitrates. That gets consumed by plants, that gets water changed out, and like in the 800-gallon tank, we actually see that we're auto water changing, right? So water changes every 3 days and gives the water turns on basically full tap for 7 minutes, and then it turns off, and we're overflowing some of that water. And we've actually added, Easy Green to the water that's being siphoned in. So it's dosing some fertilizer in there. Now, while that might be a good ratio going into my 100-gallon ponds, at the same kind of ratio, it's not enough to feed the plants in 800-gallon. And so I'm actually gonna have to set up a doser. I'll end up filming a video, which I've done videos on dosers and stuff in the past, but I've got kind of a DIY container and stuff I want to try out. But I need to dose more fertilizer because even with all that muck, the water was very clean. And so to answer the question, does a dirty filter mean bad water quality? Not necessarily at all. Conversely, clean filters don't mean good water quality either. You can definitely have both of those scenarios going on. Now, there's always neglect, and that, I feel like that's something that I talk about all the time when there's we're talking about pH issues, old tank syndrome, we're talking about nitrates, all of those things. Yes, you can just neglect a tank and a filter will get super duper dirty, and you can make the leap in logic of super duper dirty filter and the water tested out badly. That's why. Pure neglect of something will lead to not good results. However, you can be taking care of the water like we auto water change. You could be gravel vacuuming. You could be cleaning sponge filters. You could have plants cleaning up the water. All of these things going on, but then just having the canister filter, like in my case, just be a garbage can where it's just picking up poop basically and holding on to it until I take out the trash. And that's kind of how I use them. There's a lot of people that use them as biological filters, and I think they're one of the most work requiring biological filters. You got to open it up, you got to do a bunch of stuff with it, where a sponge filter works really easy. Gravel vacuuming is even easier. Sponge filters are pretty easy, but sponges inside of a thing that's heavy and you got to move and disconnect and reprime and things like that. That's one of the hardest ways, in my opinion, to break down the waste. Whereas collecting the waste, this big bucket does hold a lot, and so it allows me to go long periods of time in between. Just because it builds up a lot of waste in there doesn't mean that it's adding to nitrates or anything like that. So yeah, dirty filter doesn't necessarily mean anything. Testing the water again, well, I say unfortunately, but testing the water kind of becomes that's the real answer. There is test it. You'll know what the water looks like, and so and I talked about having a clean filter. You could have a brand new filter or a brand new aquarium, and you test your water. The water looks great, right? And the filters can be very clean. That doesn't mean the tank is cycled or seasoned. It doesn't mean that your filter is doing its job or isn't doing its job. It just hasn't even really gotten a chance to start. So, yeah, I tend to run powered filters till they kind of clog up, knowing that the majority of my bacteria is living on glass sides or acrylic sides, decorations, gravel or sand or whatever substrate you have. And then, so if that's doing a majority of the biological conversion, right, taking it from something that's more toxic to something less toxic, then the plants are then consuming the result of that, really, for me, in my tanks. And then you've got just solids that are being collected in the garbage can or the filter. And so that's kind of where you see people talk about mechanical filtration, biological filtration, and chemical filtration, right? And I don't use a whole lot of chemical filtration. That would be things like, I can't think of it. It's a flocculant. That's what it does. So a flocculant, what it does is it binds with other things so that it becomes more coarse. So a clarifier product, right? So I think there's Seachem clarifier. There's Fritz has one, and those would be more of chemical. You add in a chemical, it kind of bonds, it makes it now filterable with mechanical. You can also do things like carbon and purigen. Those would be other types of like chemical type filtrations, right? But yeah, so I like to isolate a lot of things in my aquariums so that I'm not worried that my biological filter, so if my canister filter had a lot of sponges in there, a lot of bacteria, if it collected too much fish mold and it suffocated that and I lose all my beneficial bacteria, I don't have to worry about that because I'm mostly growing that in the gravel and on decorations and things like that. So, which most aquariums do that anyway, so that's why you don't see too many crashes and things like that. You can, if you go in there and you do too many changes. You're gravel vacuuming, you're changing filtration where you're maybe swapping out sponges or swapping out cartridges. You're scraping down algae. You're doing all of these things in tandem. You can get a big disruption there. But yeah, I like to touch kind of one at a time. And so if I'm doing a canister filter that day, it might be 3 or 4 days before I do the glass, and might be another week before I do gravel vacuuming, where most people, they do tend to do it all at once. They kind of go, I'm going to get it done today. I try to space that out. It's not necessarily more work, but it does lead to a more stable system, I find. All right. Someone did have a question about what kind of nitrates would I like to see in a planted tank, or what do I recommend running at. I really like my tanks to be at 40 parts per million. So on, I guess I should say, 50, because it makes it easier on here. But my goal really is that on a test kit like this, if I'm using my own test kit, I'd want to see at least 25 parts per million. That'll never focus, will it? How dare you? Come on. Never. Anyway, I'd like to see 25 parts per million. And then as I get to 50, I'm still okay with that. It's when I would hit like 100, I'd be like, okay, I need to be changing water. But for me, if I have a planted tank like I have right now, and I'm sitting at less than 10, I'm going to be making adjustments to raise that up, right? And I'm doing this slowly over time. And so as I do that, maybe I overcorrect and I'm now dosing too much fertilizer. Because for my plants, what I'll be doing is I'll be increasing fertilizer. I'll be increasing food for the fish. So that'll be two sources. And if I miscalculate or I don't know what I'm doing and I just, guessing, because a lot of it is kind of guessing. And now I'm reading after a week. I'm like, okay, I'm at 25. I'm like, okay, I'm in the range I want to be. But then 2 weeks out, I'm more like 50. Like, ooh, okay, I'm starting to, get a little bit high there. And at week 3, if I'm like, okay, I'm probably at 75 to 100, I would think, okay, I need to start backing it off a little bit. But at the same time, plants take a little while to go, hey, wait, there is a bunch of food available. I should start growing faster, right? And just because a handful of food and 2 squirts of easy green today is the correct number, we might find that 6 months from now, that is not enough at all. We're back down to really low numbers again. Or if we took a bunch of plants out, it could be way too much again. So it's always kind of um, you know, a moving target, if you will. And so you'll have to test and just kind of see where you're going. But if you have things basically down to a science of like, oh, I put in a tablespoon of food, I put in this much fertilizer into my tank, and I do that, on this schedule, short of major changes, shouldn't change too much for you. And by testing, once a month or something like that, you'll be in that right zone that you want to be. So 50 nitrates won't negatively affect my fish. I can't definitively say that. I can say that I myself have never seen 50 parts per million nitrate be detrimental to the fish that have been in my care. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen. So do know that just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean something hasn't happened, but I can't visually see a difference. I don't see fading color. I don't notice reduced lifespan. I don't notice any of these things that people would typically associate with higher nitrates, right? I do see some positives though with kind of mulm and high nitrates and things like that. I typically see fish breed more often. I see there be better food for fry and shrimp and things like that, and then I get better plant growth. So I do see some positives to keeping nitrates in there, and that's kind of why I advocate for it, and that's my zone that I'm shooting for, because I see some of these benefits. But if things were to change in the future, I would definitely change the way I keep fish if I noticed detrimental things happening. But I haven't. And so therefore, I'm looking to do kind of the least amount of work and get the best results out of my aquariums possible. And that happens to be that if I run between 20 and 50 parts per million of nitrates, my plants never run out of food. They seem to grow really well. My fish don't seem to suffer for it. I don't have to become a slave to water changes typically if I've stocked correctly, and I enjoy that aquarium. So that's what I'm shooting for usually is the enjoyment of it. And enjoyment comes in different forms. Some people enjoy a very, 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 very clean aquarium. Some people enjoy fake decoration. Some people enjoy breeding of the fish. Some people enjoy whatever it is you're going to enjoy, right? But my definition is working ecosystem, fish starting to breed or at least being very happy. And I do try things. Like I know this last week, while we were out, we stopped by the store and we got some Siamese algae eaters and we got some nerite snails, and I put them in the 800 gallon. And you'd be going, but wait, Ladybird's going to eat them. And I would say, she might. However, from that video, you saw me put some shrimp in there. Well, I saw shrimp in there just a couple days before we added the nerite snails. And I thought, well, if shrimp are doing okay, let's try some. Oh, and I saw some other snails, some ram's horns that we put in there, and they were still alive. And so I thought, well, maybe she's not, maybe I'm feeding her well enough that she's not really going on the hunt to hunt those guys out. I don't think the horseface loaches are going after them. And so they might be able to work on some of the green spot algae that nothing else in the tank's going to work on except for me. I got to use elbow grease. And so that's something I'm willing to play with is, okay, can I change this ecosystem? Is this ecosystem big enough? Will it slowly turn the tide on some of these algae for me while I'm turning the tide on dialing up nitrates so that the plants will grow because we've adjusted CO2? In the terms of an aquarium, this thing is a mess because we've changed lighting, we've changed CO2, we've changed the amount of nitrogen or nitrates from the fertilizer. We changed stocking levels and we're changing foods, right? Because I test foods on there and I'm doing, so all these things are changing, and that's basically a recipe for instability of like not having things dialed in the way you want it. Whereas we stop changing things, so like I have the Aquariumcoop lights that we're developing on there. If I don't switch those out, that'll become a constant, right? If I put on an auto doser, that becomes a constant. I do have a feeder on there, but it's not a big enough feeder. I've got too many fish. I kind of need more. So I'm going to install a different feeder. So that'll become a constant again. Then we're just dealing with plant growth changing. CO2 will be dialed in a little more, so that'll become a constant. And fish growth. So then I'll have two factors to be kind of playing with. Instead of right now, there's like 6 or 7 of like, oh, this is just too difficult. You can't kind of matrix this out and know where you're going to end up. You just have to keep honing it in to make it a smaller project that is doable by someone like myself. So it's fun though. I do enjoy seeing what happens. Well, you know, the internet would have told me there's no way shrimp and snails will cohabitate, and yet I've seen it happen. I've also seen it be a murder spree. So, you know, but I do enjoy the let's see what happens, educated guesses. Like I'm not completely reckless. I bred all those shrimp. If the shrimp had been eaten by something in there, I wouldn't have put in the snails, right? Now, it's only been a couple of weeks, so it's not like it's been years, so there could still be like, well, we were out of town, the person feeding ladybird didn't quite feed enough, and she ate them. So again, but we've changed that ecosystem. The food that was a constant now became not constant. So I blame kind of the changing of a tank and not so much the animal. Is this a member only chat? This is. If you'd like to chat, you have to sign up, become a member. Otherwise, you can leave a comment down below. We read through them. We pick some of them out to answer questions in other types of shows and things like that. So let's see here. Super fast shipping. Glad to hear it. Someone let me know that I think they said they were in Maine, that the plants arrived well. Good, good, good. Let's see. You've gotten me and my tanks through. Wait, so much. Absolutely appreciate you and the co-op. Let's go Nerves. All right. Ooh, by the way, I can kind of announce it. So our shirt has been finalized for Aquashella. So if you're going to Aquashella, awesome. You're going to get a shirt from us. If you're on the fence, well, if you want a shirt, you're going to show up. This will be a shirt, at least as of now. I don't want to say never because, you know, but like the red shirts that we never sold online, this is a completely new design, which you guys saw like the sketches of it. New color, so new color, new design, same great quality shirt. Different printer though, which it's a member, so that's good. So that we're giving those away to, you don't even have to be a member, you just have to show up and you have to pay to get into the show is all. So we're giving away, and we're bringing 3,000 shirts. So there will be more than 3,000 people there. And it's a considerable cost, but most people should get a shirt if they want one. And then if you're a member, we're actually giving away, we had 100 pairs printed up of sweatpants that have a special like logo on it for members. So that'll be cool. So to get those, you just have to be a member. We'll probably have you show us your phone and it'll say like, oh, you're a member. And, you know, normally we have less than 100 like paying members show up. That being said, if we've wildly misguessed this, we'll figure out what we're going to do. Maybe some IOUs, maybe, I don't know how we're going to pull that off yet. But hopefully, I don't think we will. I think we'll be fine because, you know, it's just one show. And then our goal would be as we do more shows, we print more, we show up with more things. So if you're on the fence about going and you're a member, it's a pretty good deal. I mean, I'll say this, sweatpants are not cheap to have printed, and they should be decent quality. I actually haven't gotten to wear these sweatpants because there wasn't time before the show, but we're paying a decent amount of money, and we picked some properties about sweatpants we liked, and they fit those, so we're hoping. Hit that like button. Corey, I'm very colorblind, and the water tests are nearly impossible for me to read. Is there any electronic solutions? They do make pH meters. You can get like a TDS meter would help a little bit. There are some digital ones that could help you. There also, and I don't know the accuracy of them. There are some, I want to say it's like JBL, but you might have to Google. There are some test strips. I think one of the Tetra type might have it too. I'm not sure. Um, but you basically would take a picture with your phone, and then the app that you're using to do that analyzes it. However, the people that have used those systems say that it really matters on the lighting. And so most people that did talk about that, they said they tried to get someone else just to read the numbers for them because that was more accurate than trying to get the light the same every time. That being said, I think you could probably have like a light above it that it's always the same light every time that you kind of take the picture underneath, and that would get you a decent baseline. But you still will be at the mercy of, if you're not getting kind of close lighting to whatever they calibrated their app with to begin with, it might be going, hey, that's 8.0 pH when it really should have been 7.2 or something like that. So, but those are the only two systems I really know of. There is a robot that I know of that is kind of like it's not mass produced, but it basically, you had vials and it would put in 5 milliliters, then it would like drop the drops in there and, like shake it basically. And then if you had set it up correctly, it would push that to a website where you could read it. Now, that being said, that system was over $1,000. I never actually went through with it, but I had thought it was a decent thing I might want to try with our warehouse so I could remotely monitor these big systems with plants in them. Never ended up going through with that, but that is one thing that it's meant for, like a one tank kind of system and not something you would just like move tank to tank to tank to tank. But yeah, there are some options, but I can see the struggles there. All right, I'm not tech savvy and I'm going to be at the Flora Aquashella. How is showing my phone, how does it work? You basically, let's see if I can show you with my own phone here, because I'm a member of our own channel. The struggles there. Oh, you're getting like feedback. Yes. So what you're gonna do, it'll focus on my phone. Will you focus? Don't focus on my face. I swear, you see how it's locked on Ladybird right now? Hide behind Ladybird. Come on. Oh, come on. It is so locked on Ladybird. How dare you? Anyway, right by the aquarium co-op thing, it'll say see perks. If we see the word see perks, we know that you can see the perks because you're a member. Otherwise, it would have a join button there. So you basically just pull up one of our videos. You're going to show it to us. We're going to see that it says see perks. And you'll be able, and then we'll know like, okay, well, what size of, sweatpants would you like? So there you go. Is there an all-in-one digital water tester? pH, GH, KH, nitrate, all the rest. Not that I know of. There's the ones that I've looked at. There's one called like a Senye. It's made for ponds. I think it's SENYE. It was part of the company. I think they were partnering with, what was that gadget that came out a few years ago that like Oliver Knott, George Farmer, and a few other people. It had the camera and all that kind of technology that was supposed to go in your aquarium. What was that thing called? I can't remember what it's called, but it had sensors also, and I think it was using the Senye technology. But it only did like ammonia and pH, and I think that's all it does. But even that's still useful, but not crazy useful, right? The problem with digital testers is they all have to be calibrated at X amount of like uses or time they've been wet or yeah, so it might be like, oh, ammonia gets recalibrated once a week. Nitrate gets recalibrated every 10 minutes, right? And the next one is every month. And so sometimes you have to swap out sensors, sometimes you just have to recalibrate them. And the technology doesn't exist yet to that, like, oh, I plug in a thing to my iPhone and I put the probe in there and then it reads the parameters. I think we'll get there someday probably, but we're not at that point yet. How often do you add root tabs to your tanks? Not often enough. That's actually something I was going to do on the 800 gallon. In a perfect world, I add them about every 3 months. And what I do is I add a lot. So some people wait for their plants to like run out and then they add more. I tend to go, well, here's a bunch, so I know I don't have to do it for like 3 months. Why is slow mode on when I'm a member? Because there's so many members that it would be spammy if it's affecting you. At least that's what they told me, is they have been playing back and forth, seeing what's going on, and so if you're slowed, it's just, you know, creators with lots of members have to slow it down. Rachel O'Leary has an electronic unit for water chemistry. She has a video regarding the unit. Yeah, that's the API unit that I've talked about in the past. It's basically an evil corporation farming your data and ruining local fish stores. Because they wanted me to help get people to use this thing at stores and all of that, and I wouldn't because the local fish store doesn't retain the data. So the premise is you bring a water sample in, there's this like $2 disc, you put the water on it, it runs the test, it's fairly accurate, spits out, and it would spit out recommendations, right? The problem is it only goes to the email that was put in, and so if it goes to, you know, new fish keeper 123, API now has your email, right? 2, if you had a low pH, it's going to say, oh, you need to buy API buffer up, right? So it's going to be recommending you products and not maybe recommending crushed coral like maybe they would want to, and things like that. And 2, it emails it to you. It doesn't tell the, at least now, keep in mind, this is when I was being told about the product like 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, definitely way before COVID. But at the time, it didn't tell like me, the user, how to actually help the customer. Instead, they had to get like an email, right? And then it'd be like, oh yeah, buy pH buffer up, buy stress coat, buy stress zyme, like these types of things. And the problem for me was each little disc, it was like $2. And the whole goal was you could charge the customer for a water test when it's like, well, we already do it for free. Or the store could just eat the cost of these discs and it would bring people to the store. Now, that doesn't work when you bring people to the store and then email them product that you may or may not carry or agree with, right? And then my marketing brain goes, and then the next thing is, pretty soon you get an email of like, hey, guess what? $2 off API flake food or whatever, right? Because you're in their system. So, yeah, I wish that system, well, I hope that system evolves a bit so that it becomes something that is more usable without like necessarily giving up your data and all of that, if you don't want to. Do I still need a new puppy? Yeah, I still need a new puppy. Will you ever sell the thermal pouches for shipping? I'd really like one. Maybe. I'm working on, so that Zenzo could take note. I'm trying to make a section of the website where only members could purchase some stuff. The problem is this. The thermal pouches are decently expensive. We don't turn a profit on them because we give them away. And even if we go to sell them, we don't want to sell a bunch. And it's because like we don't have, like let's say we'd start selling them, like, oh my gosh, everyone wants to buy them. Or what happens to us a lot is businesses become members just so they can buy things, right? And so then you get like, your competitor were like, oh, they just bought 500 of those and qualified for free shipping, like, oh, great, we're losing a ton of money. That being said, we may be able to find a way where it's like, okay, behind the members only thing, we could like, if it wasn't too much of a pain to program on developer side, like limit it to one. You could add one in, or find a way where you could get some limited amounts. That being said, we're changing the sizes on them a little bit, and we're going to order a lot more to give them away more liberally. Definitely towards the hot states where there's a chance of overheating. So you might not be able to get one living in Florida right now because it's not cold enough there. But the goal would be you'd be getting them during the summer when it's hot. That being said, we got to buy a lot of liners, and it's a lot of money just to outlay and storage and all of that. So we're working on ramping it up to that level so that we might be able to pull that off for everybody. Long-term goal is to actually have it so that like every shipment would have one. That being said, I could also see it where it leads to a buildup of too many for some people that would then be negatively impacting the planet. So I haven't figured out quite how to, maybe there's like an on and off switch where it's like, okay, I've got enough of them, only use them if it's super cold or super hot. If it's right in that sweet spot, don't worry about it. It's a little, it's hard to, I realize people want them. I also realize I don't want to kill the planet and don't want to spend $1 billion doing it. What size pre-filter sponge is good for an AquaClear 30 medium? The 30, I like using the medium sponge size. That's, it's the one like this big. So not the mini. And you can go the large, but you're going to have to adapt the hose size, or not the hose, but the intake size. The medium should do really well for that. That's the one I would use. Love the liner. Shipping to New England is a pain right now, and the liner worked flawlessly. Yeah, it's, we're still refining it too. That's the other thing I'll say is we're still perfecting the size and the boxes we use, and yeah, if we can get it down better, we're gonna try. What canister filters do you recommend? I'm looking into getting one in the next month or two. I'm thinking about a 307 or 407 for my 40 breeder. I do like flue ball canister filters in general. I don't sell them, and that's mostly just because they're not profitable for us to sell. Not because I don't like them or anything like that. If I was buying for that 40 breeder, I would probably just snag a 407, and you can always throttle it back a little bit if you want. If you had a bigger tank, like I've put the FX4s on 55s and throttled them back a bit, but yeah, 3 or a 407, especially if you could pick up one reliably used from like a club member or a local or something like that, I wouldn't be afraid to do that. One of the things I do like about the flue ball filters is replacement parts and things like that are much more accessible than a lot of the other brands. It's not crazy to think like, oh, I could probably hop on Amazon or Google and find the O-ring I need or the part I broke. So I do like that. You can definitely find impellers and other things. And so what that means is if you're going to be a long-term hobbyist, you can use that 307 for probably the next 20, 30 years. Does throttling back a bit on cancer affect them long-term? Probably. In practice, I haven't really noticed that. So by throttling them back, depending on how much you're creating back pressure, right, on the pump and stuff like that. However, I do believe that there is going to be a pressure change in how tall the tank is, right? So if you have it like, oh, it's a foot and then the tank, that's less back pressure than, like as I talked about in the video, this is like 7 feet. I'm like, I think it says to only go 5 feet in the guy. I'm going 2 feet above that. So you get head height loss. And I'm sure that leads to wear and tear on the impeller and things like that. That being said, if I go 11 years and I'm like, oh no, my impeller blew out, I have to spend another $20. I'm okay with that. That's like a normal service life. You need to replace a part. Um, Now, if you really dial it back and you just like got the water trickling out of it, you might go, oh man, it burned out after 4 days or 4 months, and you're not going to see that value. So I wouldn't just buy like I bought the biggest one possible and I dialed it down to a trickle. But they are designed in a way so that you could have some leeway there, and have it full open or throttle it down. And they think about use cases. So, if an FX6 is rated for like 125 to a 300 gallon tank, let's say, you probably don't want to throttle that back on a 10 gallon, right? That's like beyond the scope of what that, like arguably it's like the same size as the tank. But when you start getting into like, okay, well, 307, 407, 40 breeder, 55, 29 to 30 gallon to 75, anywhere in there, like really, you're probably going to be able to play with it quite a bit and not cause too much cavitation of the pump or anything like that. Arguably, you could probably argue that the way in which we optimize our canister filters, where we put insane amounts of media in them, or very fine filter pads, or let them become super gunked up, will also have just as much of an impact as dialing it back. Because as things get more clogged up, the water, it's harder to get through it, right? And so I think all of those factors play into it, and for the most part, these things are made to handle it. At what size tank do you consider removing substrate during a move? Usually above 55 gallons. It depends. Like if you got 5 inches of substrate in a 55, that's pretty heavy. But I'm doing it out of weight reasons to what I can move. And so lower than that, usually I don't. 55 and possibly up, I would. And it depends. Do I have another strong helper? Is it just me that's got to move this thing? Like there can be other circumstances, but usually 40 and under, 2 people grab a tank, moves it fairly easy. One of my Aquariumcoop auto feeders will not turn when scheduled to feed. It was working great for several weeks. It will work when you hit the feed button just fine. Any ideas? I would say try doing a hard reset on it. Like, I don't know how you're going to do a hard reset on it though either. Like you'd have to run the battery all the way out probably to do a hard reset. I would make sure it's fully charged, see if that's a thing. Otherwise, we'll probably just send you another one. I'm trying to think of, I haven't run into that problem yet. The only time I've ever really had a problem is when the battery got too low. So maybe try charging it. Easy Green raises nitrates after water change to remove? Yeah, essentially. That's why I tell people to stop changing so much water and then dosing Easy Green. You're kind of working against yourself. When am I coming to Texas? Oh, when I come to Texas, tacos are on you. You basically invented them in San Antonio. All right. I always say all right. I never take anyone up on that because I don't have time. Like, it's like, nope, I have to go have a public dinner with 60 other people, and there's not a lot of, like, yeah, let's go grab that. Having a hard time growing Java Fern with my goldfish. Any tips? Been dosing Easy Green on my 55 once a week, and I'm missing anything. And I missing anything? Test the water. Make sure you have ample nitrates in there. So what I see a lot of people do with goldfish, giant water changes or water changes multiple times a week, and then if you're just dosing Easy Green once a week, you might test the water and be like, yeah, nitrates are below 10 or 0, and therefore your plants are starving to death. I would start with water checking. Not even quality, but just checking. How often would I feed baby betta fish fry? I feed baby brine shrimp once a day. Maybe they need more. They will, you can raise fish just feeding them once a day like that. You could probably get like 30% faster growth if you fed 2 or 3 times a day. That being said, you also have the chance of like, oops, I overdid it and I killed a bunch. For the most part, one time a day is fairly efficient. Have I ever bred Florida flagfish? I'm trying to think if I have. I think we've done that on accident, like had them in planted tanks, like sales tanks, eating like algae, and then move some plants to another tank and raise some fry. But I don't think we've specifically like intentionally bred them. Oh, I know I'm struggling. I'm like struggling. I didn't make my chat bigger. There we go. Much easier. Do sponge filters give plants the same water agitation as a hang-on back? No, I think inherently they don't. It's not the same movements and things like that. What I do like is that oftentimes people will buy a hang-on back and they'll be like, "Oh, this thing says it does my size of tank," and they call it good. Whereas like a sponge filter, they're more likely to have multiple of them. They're more likely to move them around and things like that. But for the most part, water movement from a hang-on back could be very turbulent. Like if you have the water down a couple inches and it's falling in, that can be actually really hard on plants. If it's filled up to the top, it's skimming, kind of doing this motion. That could be great. Air stones or sponge filters in general are more of a gentle flow, but I'm not sure that they're going to mix it quite as much. You could add in a Canister filter in there, and that might improve flow even like in a different way. But for the most part, as long as water is kind of circulating that whole aquarium, it's fairly equal, I think, in terms of which would you say which is better or worse. I'm almost balanced. Nitrates are consistently zero, dosing Easy Green twice a week, and nitrates back to zero in 48 hours. 2 tanks keep growing cyanobacteria, though. So to me, I hear that and I go, well, depends on what your definition of balanced is. I would much rather be sitting at 20. If you replace the word like nitrates with money, like, oh yeah, I'm consistently sitting at zero, you kind of go like, oh, that's great. You're not going to debt, but wouldn't it be nice not to sit at zero? That's kind of where I'm at of like, maybe you always have $100 in the bank. Like that's okay. That's a good place to be. And that's kind of where I want my plant tank. It's like, well, I don't want to run out, right? And I don't want to run into debt. And I also, I can't afford to have it be really high. So as far as cyanobacteria, though, it can get introduced from different things. There's, a million different things on the internet. One's not enough flow, one's too much phosphate, one's not enough phosphate, one's, you looked at it too much, one's you like Snickers and you don't like Reese's. There's a million different explanations, and none of them seem to be universally like, yes, that fixes, or that was my problem. It seems to be fairly hard to diagnose the cause and much easier just to fix it. Of like, okay, we use an antibiotic to fix it. We gravel vac really well. We, increased flow. We do these things and that will typically get rid of it. But to know what actually made the environment good enough for this to really thrive and take off, that's one of the hardest things to diagnose. And I have seen lots of studies and they can prove all these different things that would cause it. That to me actually just only makes it harder of like, oh, it's kind of like if you're overweight, like, okay, well, is it hereditary? Are you eating too much? Are you not exercising enough? Is it this? Is it that? Is it this? Right? And the reality is, well, any of those could really cause it. Which one is really the problem here? But maybe the answer is like, well, maybe I'll eat a little better. I'll exercise some more. I'll make sure I get blood work done and, try to make sure everything's in balance. And by doing all those things, you should start seeing things to improve. And I think that's kind of how cyanobacteria is like, well, increase circulation. Let's go ahead and use an antibiotic. Let's clean up the tank in general. Take a good hard look at it and go, what parts might be lacking? What could I fix? What do I think might be going wrong? Fix all those things, and hopefully it won't be reoccurring for you. My friend breeds long coat mini dash hounds, blonde, sable, and cream colors. Very, very nice dogs. Champion lines. I can hook you up. Maybe. I say maybe because we're those people that are totally in love with animals and dogs and everything. And we'll just be like, nah, we can't do it. We can't do it. And then there'll be like 32 dogs that are homeless on our doorstep. And we're like, yep, have to adopt them all. So we're very, I guess, wild in that sense on that. Do root tabs raise nitrates? They can if they're being exposed to the water column a lot. But in general, I don't see much of a spike in my aquariums. Some people have saw some rises out of it. But at least the way I'm doing it, I haven't. So that doesn't really answer your question, I realize, but I typically run a decently thick substrate. I make sure I push them to the bottom, and I also don't test a lot right after I do it. So, because for me, like, do they raise nitrates a lot in the water column? If they do, I'm like, sweet, plants want that. So I'm not really like checking to see if it's doing it or not doing it. Dorkula needs old crusty dogs. That's true. Uh-oh, what's my wife telling me? She just want me to rant about how our couch is missing. Says, we ordered a couch in July of, it has to be like last year? No, this year, I guess. Has been in transit overseas since October 18th. They think they're currently in the port of Seattle. Hopefully will be available at the store by the end of February. Yep. It's, and so specifically, why is this couch relevant, you might ask? We specifically bought a couch that was lower to the ground. It's like real low for Sassy, who's now passed away. But in general, we have small dogs, and Sassy wasn't able to get up and down ramps anymore. And so we thought, let's get a couch that sits crazy low, and then the ramp will just be like 5 inches, right? But now it's been 8 months. Sassy has passed, and well, I guess it hasn't been 8 months yet. It's been 7 or whatever. But yeah, still don't have our couch. It'll still be good for our current dogs though, because I'm always worried. Like, we have tile in our living room. We have wood around the outside of the living room, but we have tile there, and I'm always just worried. Like, when they hop down off a normal level couch, like, I know it puts stress on their joints and they can hurt themselves, and so I'm always leery of it, and so it'll be good for everybody, I think. And we'll have to do like a squat to get up off the floor basically every time we do it. Zenzo's made a post on how to show membership at Aquashella. There you go. How much for the couch in the background? Oh, that thing? I think it was like $2,000, I think. We use it a lot. We eat lunch on it a lot, like Dean and I. It's got some USB plug-in thingies. The whole goal was actually to do some live streams and stuff from that couch. We just haven't pulled that off yet. Someone did ask about my lawnmower. I did get it back finally. It was, what did it take? Let's see. When we brought it in June? Yeah, it was a little more than 6 months to get it repaired. So we brought it in June. Got it back last month. Missed the whole lawn mowing season, and my steering wheel is all chewed up. Like, I don't know what they did to that thing. Like, I don't know if they were pulling it with a chain or what they were doing, but It's like all these chunks taken out of the steering wheel, and then they put like some giant label on the back of the seat that is just the most gummy mess ever that I need to take like some Goo Gone to or whatever, because it's the first time I run that lawnmower, all that lawnmower dust and grass clipping dust is gonna just make that thing look terrible. Live and learn, I guess. Don't buy a lawnmower from Home Depot. I'm a brand new member. Welcome, Bow Wow Bill. I just got the small python siphon. The one thing, where'd it go? Yeah, the one thing, the one with the long, thin part that goes into the gravel, it works marvelously. Good. What's the likelihood we'll make it to Aquashella, Chicago? I don't know. I'd say like 50-50 at the moment. Corey, you look great. This man needs a cookie. I can get used to that. It's because I'm growing out the beard again. I figure if I'm going to have like dry skin, I may as well fight that dry skin behind my beard. Even though you can like see it right here, there's some dry, like it in person, it's barely noticeable. I really need to tweak these settings, but I ain't got no time for that. Picked up a pair of Epistogramma McMaster eyes, some cardinals, a blue phantom tetra, from the coop yesterday. I'm going to sneeze, by the way. All acclimated and doing well. The staff yesterday was extremely helpful and friendly. Glad to hear it. What's something I'm personally excited about? At the moment, the thing I'm most excited about is taking a vacation in Hawaii in December. We just booked it last night, and I think my wife and I both are realizing really quickly how much we've kind of needed a vacation. It's been just go, 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 go for all of COVID and all of, it's been a crazy time for us. So it's settling down though. You guys may have noticed I'm able to live stream a little more. It's starting to settle down where it's not absolutely crazy every single day. So that's good news. And being able to recharge batteries a little bit, it's going to be good. Can you update us on your undergravel trial? I would love to hear your opinion. Undergravel filters are dope. I do like them quite a bit. Honestly, they're awesome. If you don't have fish that dig, then they're pretty much just awesome. They're a little bit hard to find. They're a little bit expensive for what they are, but I really do just like undergravel filters. I don't even sell them. I like them though. Any plans for more videos with Greg Sage? I haven't yet, as in done any planning. We're really not planning much. We did plan this vacation or whatever, but it's so hard to plan when you just have countries like changing requirements and all of that we're taking it slow. Like if it green lights everywhere, maybe, but I think Greg Sage might be immunocompromised as well a little bit. So there's always that too. There's like, can I actually go there? Then two is like, does it make sense to be in someone else's space, depending on, like I have, family members that are, we really want to make sure they don't get sick because it would be much more adverse to them. And you've got things like I've explained before, like I don't want to get sick before I'm supposed to go to an event because then I have to cancel. So I've got things I'm committed to as well. So just trying to bob and weave through this thing like everybody else. I finally did it. I got a linear air piston pump, made a loop around the room. It's so quiet and I love it. I replaced 8 small pumps. Thanks for the idea. Good. I'm glad. Especially if you can remote mount that air pump in like a different room, it can be pretty quiet in that room you're just hanging out. Are the dogs going to Hawaii? No, I think dogs have to quarantine for like a week or something when you go to Hawaii. Would you keep nitrates higher, 80 to 100 in a plant grow out tank? No. I think the right move is like 40-ish. Because it's kind of like, let's say 40 nitrates is a large pizza in the fridge, and then you kind of always have like one or two people at the house. And then you're asking like, but would you always keep two or three pizzas? Like, well, no. I'd rather just have one pizza. When you eat through that, like order another one, right? And so you have like this, you have kind of, you don't have any going to waste. And I feel like that's how that goes too. Like I don't want it to be in excess for no reason, but I definitely don't want to run out. So I hope that explains what I'm thinking. What island am I going to be on? Probably won't tell people. Because what happens is I'll say, oh, we're going here. And then there'll be like 6 people. Oh, I'm on this island. You want to come see my fish room? You want to do this thing? You want to see this? Want to do that? And it's like, actually, I'll just be rude here and say, I don't want to do any of that because I'm supposed to be on vacation and not working. And the minute I got to like, well, I should film this. I should do that. So there is a chance that we do some kind of meetup, but if we do that, we'll be announcing that and planning as an actual event and everything. So is Randy no longer a store manager? Well, Randy is my director of operations. I'm thinking you mean Robert. Robert, because you say I love his unboxing videos with Jimmy. Yes, Robert currently is the manager of the store a few days a week and the manager of the warehouse. He's transitioning to be warehouse full-time. And we have Brandon, who is now an assistant manager. Who's getting excited about summer tubbing? I went out in the sunshine today, scouting out places for new, bigger totes. It was like snailing, so, well, not snailing, it was hail and rain today. And I did have to go out in it, but I was not scoping locations for more fish at the moment. I was watching the pond, though. 'Cause yesterday we had geese and stuff visiting the pond. Best food for my African feather catfish. Frozen brine shrimp. That's what I would say. I'd probably do, if it was me personally, I would do frozen brine shrimp and sinking Hikari Excel. Who is the assistant to the regional manager? Who would that be? I don't think we have anyone that fits that thing yet. Hope sometime we can get more goldfish. Forever missing that tank. Yeah, I learned a lot. I actually thought about getting goldfish, and then, well, what I was actually thinking about was Dr. Ashley Emanuel? What was her last name? I don't know, but she did the talk, right? I was thinking like it'd be kind of cool to fly her out or buy goldfish locally, have her put them through like the CT scan and do all this kind of stuff, fly them back out here and keep those goldfish. And if something went wrong, kind of fly them back out. Because I thought it was so intriguing how she was able to basically take a fish that had swim bladder problems, that couldn't swim, and remove some fluid from its swim bladder, and then it was able to swim fine. Like that learning process, I think for myself and just YouTube in general would be amazing. And so I'm actually going to see down the road if we can do a little more work with her, because I think she could really, like, on one hand, Aquarius can do a lot, and then on the other hand, there is like just more like gadgets and stuff we don't have access to. But if we did, I guess what I'm trying to say is, if I had a prize goldfish and it was having swim bladder problems, we so often try to treat it with antibiotics and peas and all of these things, right? But if we knew that, 60% of the time it's actually a fluid buildup that has to be removed, and a vet could do that after like ultrasounds or CT scans, like that, all of a sudden for X amount of people's worth the $500 bill or whatever that looks like, to go, hey, this is going to probably solve this fish's problem forever, right? So I think that'd be a well well worth learning experience for everybody involved. So yeah, and if you guys are watching this, if you haven't watched that, talk, I highly recommend signing up for $5, watching that talk, and if after that talk you're like, man, that's a scam, just ask YouTube for your money back. Like it's like a zero risk thing, but that $5 in education, I think, is really well worth it. Like if you've spent $100 more in this hobby, $5 is like some of the best $5 I could spend, I think. So here's how I knew it was good. This is how I knew it was good. I was working on my office, and I'm like listening, and I was like, well, okay, I want to see what the slide is. And then Katie gave me dinner. I was having some sausage raviolis in a light cream sauce. And so I'm eating, and then pretty soon, like it's an hour and a half long presentation, and pretty soon I'm done eating, and then I sat there for another 45 minutes just locked on and watching. That is so rare to happen for me. I'm always like triple tasking and doing all kinds of things. And so that's how I knew, like, wow, she's a great presenter. She was really speaking about stuff I cared about. She was teaching me because I needed to, like, oh, I want to learn about this. I need to watch. And so at the level I'm at in my career, if she's doing that for me, and it wasn't crazy technical. So if she's doing that for me, I would have to imagine someone who's not that much into it, maybe don't own a store, maybe, haven't worked with wholesalers and things like that, you'd be gleaning even more, right? And a lot of people say they watch it 2 or 3 times, and I could see why. And so, if you haven't watched that talk yet, definitely put it on your, I'm going to listen to this next time on an airplane, or find some time to do it next time you're on a long drive. And if you haven't become a member, I highly recommend, even if it's just that once, to do that. Yeah, it was a great talk. Any plans for the big outdoor pond this summer? I should probably make no plans, and I'm actually do a bunch. Where I always go, yeah, this summer I'm going to do this, and I do none of it. So we'll have to see how that actually pans out. I'm a local dog trainer and breeder who has some puppies available right now. What shows am I watching? My copious amounts of free time. The last 2 that we watched 1883, which is the prequel to Yellowstone, and currently we're watching Yellowstone. But it's getting better. There was a series of events where it's like a bunch of crazy stuff happening where the odds are insanely low, and it was like back to back to back, and my wife was like, is this just a cowboy like soap opera? And I was like, kind of. But it is getting better, at least I think so. And so it's mostly how I watch a show is it's kind of on a TV, and I'm on my MacBook, like working and petting the dogs, and I'll look up and watch every little bit. And normally it's like tonight would be a good example. A lot of times after the live stream, it's like 7, I need to eat dinner, and then it's like, all right, from like 8 till midnight, let's watch a movie or do something while I work. And it's kind of a ramp down period of like, well, the first episode, I'm working a ton, we're still cleaning. We take that word out. My wife's still cleaning up after dinner, all of that. I don't want to take credit from her. She's the one that does all of that. And then after that, we kind of really settle down with the dogs and just kind of hang out. Have I ever bred pygmy sunfish? I have not bred them. I've caught them in the wild, but what does my computing overhead look like? Big storage server for videos, or is all that outsourced? We have like a big Dropbox account. We've built, I don't even know what you call it. Like, I think we have a 50 terabyte storage system. I guess you just call it a storage system hooked to Jimmy's computer, plus other stuff. And we kind of compartmentalize depending on what kind of work. Is it like just graphics? Is it lots of raw video footage? We want it to be very accessible to Jimmy easily instead of up on a cloud somewhere. But it's not too bad, actually. Mostly because we film in 1080. If we film in 4K, it gets out of control real quick. Is 80 parts per million nitrates okay? I think it's a little bit high. I wouldn't get out of bed to go change water over it, but I would try to narrow that down. But not knowing more circumstances might be perfect. Is it a NAS server? No, I don't think we have it so it can be accessed remotely at all. It's local only for transfer rates. Did I ever find the connection between normal YouTube videos? Wait, normal YouTube and videos like Food the Flower Horn that brought new people into the hobby? No, I haven't really. I don't know if it actually has brought that many new people into the hobby. There's not. It's really hard to quantify, so I'm not sure. I do. I really been putting together some some topics and thoughts to do on the Corey McElroy channel about things like TikTok and kind of DoorDash or Uber Eats, and some different business styled principle things that I really wanted. I was going to do it today, but instead I worked on the new office and I set up the new webcam for that, and just putting one foot in front of the other, getting some stuff done. But yeah, I have some thoughts on that kind of stuff. There's a lot of advertising that goes on right now that is what I call feel good advertising. Like, oh, I got so many likes, I got so many views, I got so many things. But then at the end of the day, like, sure, but what did you sell? Okay, well, we sold 6 widgets. Like, but 6 million people watched that, but you feel good about it. You're like, oh, it went viral. A lot of people were like, that's funny. I like that. I like it, with a thumbs up. But, is it actually converting? Is it actually educating? Is it actually doing another thing? So yeah, I've got some examples and stuff I've been getting ready to go through. Because I do think there's a big difference in that. There's a big difference between, I don't want to call it meaningful because that's not the right word, but impactful content. And then there's just like the shorts. The meta right now for shorts, if you were to do it on YouTube, is limited to 15 seconds. And then you play a thing that you can basically not even show anything relevant in 15 seconds. And the clip is 19 seconds long, but you cut it off at 15 so that people rewatching it think they looked away for a second and missed the ending. The ending's not even on it anymore. So that's the metagame though, is to make people watch your short twice thinking they must have missed the ending or there's a glitch and it skipped, right? But to me, that's just the worst of humanity of no, I'm going to trick you to waste your time instead of focusing on, let me make something that takes 40 seconds that you will actually watch for 40 seconds. Instead, I'll make something 15 seconds that's actually 20 seconds that you'll watch twice because you think you missed it. The reality is it was never there to begin with. It's a very, it's a very valid strategy, but not something I'm into. The 7 laptop thing, yeah. So some people are following my personal Instagram. Yeah. So right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 9 screens in front of me, and depending on what I'm doing on the day, right now, if I was not being lazy, which I am, I've got YouTube chat, and I have the streaming software right here. But a lot of times I'll also have the number of orders and everything and metrics going on at the warehouse. And then I'll have another screen that is analytics and stuff going on for the business overall. And then sometimes I'll have some various spreadsheets and stuff if I'm actually doing work. But the reason I have 7 laptops, or I will have 7 laptops, is the new office I'm building. I want to be able to game. And so one of the games I play, I play 6 characters at a time. And I actually do it with lots of little number pads. So I have a lot of these, so I can macro stuff down to just a few buttons. But then also still have multiple screens for actually doing work. And so the games I play fairly slow paced, so that I can be answering Candy, if we have people asking us questions through that kind of stuff. I'm responding to our developers. I'm working on all these things, like might be proofing a video. Um, and so the reason I have to just to play that many characters, you have to have separate accounts and uh, separate things. So how many mice do I have? Two. I have two mice on the desk. I actually use something called, what is it? Let me make sure I give you the right software I'm using. I use some software called Multiplicity. And so it allows my mouse to go between every single computer. The only downfall to it is it won't go through to a Mac. I would desperately love to add a Mac to it so that I could sync up my iPhone for texting and pictures, and like it's like AirDrop is so nice. So like when I'm working and watching like TV with the wife, I actually work on a Mac so I can AirDrop stuff, and that's what I'm uploading to Instagram and different pictures and different. Sometimes I'll film a whole video with my phone. I just want to AirDrop it to there, upload. So yeah, I'm a technology nerd, and I don't like to be held back. So a lot of times, a lot of screens, a lot of reference materials, and but don't get me wrong, gaming happens, but gaming can only happen if I'm still working quite hard, and so it takes a lot. Yeah, I haven't tried Synergy for Windows and Mac IKVM solution. I haven't used a lot of switches. Yep, I am a hardcore EverQuest player when I get to play. I might play tonight. My online nerds are like, dude, you gotta play. You haven't been playing in days, really, but I've been busy. All right. Apple just added something called Universal Control, which allows you to use a mouse across multiple Apple devices, but I don't think it would work with a PC. Yeah, someone might adapt that. Um, but yeah, so I have like all these screens right now. I'm actually reducing it to three 43-inch screens, and these screens can take 4 inputs each. And so you can actually hook up 4 different computers to one screen. Um, but I'll actually use one. So like one of the things I don't have with all these monitors, I don't have my security system up. And it's not so much for like, snipers in the trees as it is for like, oh, my business partner here is picking stuff up from the cargo containers. Like, oh, Bob's here because we're going to play ping pong. So yeah, Bob, you sabotaged me. When am I going camping next? Going on Saturday, Bob. You know that. So yes, less gaming, more camping. Have the AquaNeat lights. I think it reaches the bottom of a 20-inch tall, 37-gallon. I can see black algae in the plants, but they grow great. A tip for a cleaner tank. I don't gravel back much. Up the frequency? Maybe. What could have happened though, you could have got some blackbeard algae introduced, and something like a Siamese algae eater or a Florida flagfish might just get that for you. So I don't know that that's the problem. Without seeing the whole picture, like testing the water, visually looking at it, really knowing the schedule, I don't know that just gravel backing more solves your problem. Could also be a flow issue, but normally when you get blackbeard algae, you need something that's going to kind of eat on it and take care of it a bit, in addition to trying to prevent it from coming back. Not a lot of video footage from Peru last trip. Yeah, I don't know. I think we didn't stretch it out as much. So part of the problem is like you're going on an adventure and you don't know how good or bad it will be. There were days we'd show up and you're like, there's nothing we're catching here, or it was dried up, or like the one place we went to go refilm a spot that we had gone to last time, and all the fish had been killed off basically from the natives bathing and doing clothes and stuff in there. And so, I think we had 5 days on the water. Is that right? Maybe 6? 6 days on the water, and not every day is going to be like you might like trek through the jungle all day and you're like, we got a minute and a half worth of footage because no one was catching anything remarkably cool, or that spot no one was catching anything at all. And so yeah, it makes it tough. But I think a lot of people would be shocked at the amount of work that goes in to like make one of those Peru videos, and then they'd be like, "Oh wow, we're actually surprised you get more than one video out of this because it's insane." But it's we could go next time, could be 10 videos. It's all, how many things are gonna make a story, and can we tell that story? Sometimes not a lot of things make a story. What fish do I want to catch myself? I really want to do some diving in Africa and look at some African cichlids. However, I haven't been there. So, ever heard of an ONF light? I bought one secondhand. Now I can't find a second one online. I don't know what an ONF light is. The business I work for uses an Oise pond vacuum. We are a pond cleaning service. What is the best way to become sponsored? Pros and cons of having a sponsorship. Well, the best way to become sponsored is usually have a big following. And so if you have that, you got one foot in the door, so to speak. Pros and cons of sponsorship is, one, they're going to pay you. So that's good. That's a pro, right? And that might enable something. The con is, no matter what you do, people are going to assume that you're like a bot influencer. And so, like, no matter what I do, how many times I work on products with Extreme and talk bad about them and all of that, at the end of the day, I sell their stuff and they do give me free fish food for my fish room. So, yeah, that's. I personally think that sponsorships, and this is gonna, it always just sounds like, oh, that guy doesn't want people to get sponsored. That's I don't care. I hate Oise. Take them for all the money you can get them, right? That being said, I think people think like, oh, once I'm sponsored, it's going to be magical and blah blah blah, and it doesn't really do that much. It is income. However, that income comes at a considerable cost. That cost being, oh, well, we want a commercial now, or we want this thing, and all of those things start degrading the content. So it's like, oh, you have content that people love to watch? Let us pay to make that content worse. And over time, if you can't become systematically better, it will drag the channel down. It happens fairly often. And so that would be the con. The con would be like, it can start dragging you down. So make sure that doesn't happen. And your viewers are never going to be like, oh, I love that you're sponsored by Oise. You get paid and your content gets worse. Love that, right? So it's very hard for a partnership to really work out well, because there's almost someone on one of the sides going, you should be doing more. You should be paying me more. You should be doing less. You should be doing this. So it's a hard thing to navigate, though. I'll say that. Aquaponics above African cichlids, yay or nay? I'd say, yeah, it's pretty fun. I don't think it has to be African cichlids. I can do almost anything, but yeah, growing plants from fish waste is fun. I don't care who you are. When you go, hey, my plants are doing well, you feel good about it. I think I heard you say you were going to make a video or content on green water. If so, when will that be coming out? No idea. I say a lot of stuff. You could make something, it could not work out. I could need to grow more green water. It could also come out in 2 years, could come out tomorrow. Takes inspiration, takes like, ooh, this will make a good video. I could film that part. I could illustrate this. I could do that. So a lot of stuff started out as an idea and doesn't come to fruition for years sometimes. I really like your visitation videos. Is that like a conjugal visit while I'm in jail? Would you please do a video on cool betta breeders or farms? That is something I've wanted to do. I have wanted to visit some of that stuff. Whether it's Thailand, Vietnam, there's still a bunch we want to do. We were kind of ramping up and doing a bunch of cool tours and stuff. And we'd planned a bunch of stuff, and then COVID hit, and we basically have had 2 years of like, nope, not this year. Nope, not this year. And we're really hoping that, sometime this year or early next year, we can actually commit to some of these trips. And they're a lot of money. It probably doesn't look like it, from the way we do it, but a trip like those Peru videos, right? Like, I'm surprised you didn't do better. Like, that still cost me $20,000. Like, we didn't get nearly as much money. Like, it's a labor of love. Like, it's fun for us, but it's purely a money losing thing. And it would really be horrible if you're like, yeah, we paid for it all, and then it got canceled because of COVID, so we get nothing for it. So we're waiting for our odds to improve of like, yes, this trip will happen. We booked everything, and there we go. Why would my banana plant float? Not quite sure. I would just put a little lead weight on it, and it'll come down. Once it grows a few roots, it'll be attached to the substrate. Whatever happened to Dandy Arandas? Still got the ranchu I got from Super Healthy. The last thing I heard, and it's been a while now, is that they closed down based on import fees from COVID. Like, basically COVID happened, and something to like our plants. Like, we're not even like importing plants because the prices have gotten so ridiculous, and the flights have gotten so sparse that it's really difficult. Like, today, my business partner, he went to the airport, picked up one thing of plants. He'll be going again at 11 p.m. tonight to pick up another thing of plants. And then he'll do the same thing like on Thursday, because flights are so erratic. So you've got snow throwing things off, which that's its own monkey wrench. But then you have just way less flights. And the costs have gone up astronomically. So something that might have been like, a $300 flight is now $1,300. And, if you have 1,000 plants on there, all of a sudden they cost $1.30 more per plant, which starts adding up. And so that's where someone like Dandy Arandas, they rely on that economy of scale of like, okay, well, if I bring in 5,000 fish and the shipping is $1,000, it's what, 20 cents a fish, right? But all of a sudden, if now it's $5,000, now $1 more. And it seems like, well, it's only $1 more. Yeah, sure, but then the food was more expensive to get also, and labor's going up, and there's a lot of things going up, right? And so all of a sudden, a fish that you bought for $28 plus a couple dollars shipping was $30, and you sold for $90, and it maybe had $20 worth of labor, and then you got shipping and all of that. Like, they maybe made $20 on that $28 purchase. You made $20 pure profit. Now it might be where it's like, oh, you make $3 pure profit, but if one out of 30 shipments has a problem, you're just breaking even, and you're working a full-time job to break even. So a lot of things kind of gotten crushed in the mix. How is the Passos plant going in the fish room? Going great. Really kind of growing into the water and everything. I better check. I've been watering it. It gets really dry in there with all the dehumidifiers. So I've been watering it like every 2 or 3 days. Got to check. Dandy Aranda is still around. Great place for Apache Super Gold. We sell it as well. My substrate's 90% plant weights. All right. Will we ever do plants on wood again? Only if regulations change. Last we were told is that plants on wood were basically illegal to do, and so when we imported them, they weren't letting us do it. And then we could get them if we imported through California, but they were supposed to not allow it either, from what we were told. And so it's one of those things of like, well, we could still get them, our competitors could still get them, but like, do we want to be part of something that we know is like shouldn't be doing? So it's like, all right, well, let's. And so what we're told is eventually everyone's going to switch over to plants on lava rock instead of plants on wood. But we haven't seen that change. And maybe Um, yeah, maybe that has been delayed with COVID. China tariffs make goldfish unprofitable for dandy Arandas? Could be. There's other countries to buy goldfish from, like what was it? Like Vietnam or Korea? Yeah, Korea, I think. That being said, there's X amount of profit in any business, and as things chip away at it, it just gets more difficult. So, like we were hit by Chinese tariffs, that made it more difficult. COVID's made it more difficult. Cost of living's making it more difficult. At some point, some things there's not enough elasticity in the product or the demand or whatever, and you basically just have to make a decision and go, oof, yeah, there's no way to make this work anymore. Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about DoorDash a lot, and I think it's actually the worst thing to happen since Starbucks. Ladybird's like chewing old clam, not old clams, there's not old clams in there, but like extra clam shells. And what I mean by that is, for probably 10 years straight, right? The common wisdom was stop buying coffee or Starbucks every day and you'll be rich, or you'll save so much money. And now I think we've just replaced that with like DoorDash, right? There's a lot of people that will, buy food multiple times a day or every lunch or all of those things. And I think it might be the most predatory thing since credit cards. And because the way the apps, if you study them, like right now, I know. So truth be told, I've used DoorDash 3 times, and they exponentially, like right now, it's like save 50% off a $30 order. Like they will do anything to get me back on the train because I had a gift card. That's why I used it. But they'll do anything to get me back on the train of ordering. And a lot of people don't know that. Like I was ordering a Jersey Mike's sandwich, right? And if I go in and I buy it the way I like it or whatever, it's like 11.50 or something like that. But buying it through the app with a delivery fee, and I realize you can pay a subscription to waive that fee, and tip, and the fact that the sandwich is more expensive through the app than it is uh, just through the restaurant itself, it's usually over $20, right? And there's so much compounding of like bad economic choice in that you're paying more for the item off the get-go. You're usually paying like a delivery fee. You're also going to like pay with a credit card on average. So you're already at a point where you're like paying more unless you pay that off, which we already know most people don't. And so yeah, and I was actually looking today while I was waiting on something. I was trying to look up basically how much more expensive, DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, and everything. And it's basically 20%, 20 to 50% more expensive to order through an app than it is just to go to the place and buy it. Now, I was thinking about doing a whole video on, okay, there's cost of time, there's cost of wear and tear on a car and gas and things like that. Um, but I think inherently it's become so easy to use and so commonplace that something like when I was growing up, where it'd be a real treat, right? We're gonna order pizza. It's Friday night. Like, oh right, is now a commonplace, right? It's just like, oh, we need food. We're going to order, and I want to say like different demographics and studies, which take that for what it's worth, but like people that are 20 to 30 years old on average have less than 3 days worth of food in their homes. Now, that being said, if you're living in Italy, that's the norm, right? Like, oh yeah, you get fresh food every day, all that kind of stuff. And then here in America, that's not the norm, though, right? And you see these studies, especially in Canada, where they're having, the trucker strike and all of that going on right now. But, um, I do think when you watch people habitually use, and I've got family members and stuff that will do this, when you watch them habitually use some of these services, you watch the overspending. It's like, oh well, really to get free delivery, I got to spend at least $20. And so something that you might be, oh, I could have eaten for $7 or $8. Like, well, it's more efficient if I spend 20 though, right? And it's like, but is it? So I think it's whittling away at the middle class, uh, just out of convenience. And don't get me wrong, we all want convenience. I'm the laziest guy anyone knows when it comes to that kind of stuff. I'm very fortunate. My wife will cook for me. Today we went and got some pizza, and we went and picked it up on our way back from doing something. And I in general I'm very I try to be methodical and like we'll go here, we'll pick up food there, we'll do this, we'll do that, instead of read the Comfort Crisis. It's actually I already own that book, and it's sitting on my nightstand. I haven't gotten into it yet though. I've only gotten a few pages into it, and I keep going. I get it. I know what this is. Like, get to the meat of it. So I actually own that book, um, but yes, every day we basically become more of a society that wants it faster, cheaper, and my motto, which has worked well for me in business, is make something easier for people and they will spend more money. And Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber Eats have all done that very well. We've made it easier. You can now get foods that you couldn't get before, or groceries or services you couldn't get before, now delivered to your door. And it started out with, oh man, I'm so busy. This would be great. This would be hyper effective, to commonplace. And there's employees at jobs that will basically get a DoorDash every day, right? And that's cutting into what they have. And so I just think that you start compounding some of these things, and it's easy to see how money problems can rack up for lots of people. And not that people got to eat. I mean, there's no doubt, right? And maybe you don't have skills to cook for yourself. Maybe you don't own a vehicle. Maybe this, maybe that. But there are lots of things that, if I'm going to habitually pay 20 to 25% more for a lunch or a dinner or whatever, I'm that much less likely to end up owning a car or getting myself in a situation where I might be able to get that cheaper food. So, as far as the person that says, "Is this a green screen?" It is not. The green screen's actually right there. It's not. It's not down. I'll point you guys to it. Let's see. Can I get it high enough? There you go. There's that green screen. Now I gotta set the camera up again, just so you can prove with your wife or your girlfriend or something like that, right or wrong. But no green screen. This is all real. Buy groceries with those predatory credit cards, might as well get some cash back. Well, that's kind of the ruse, right? In a perfect world, if you have a financially responsible person, and that person has a stable job and doesn't lead to like, oh, I just got laid off or anything. In a perfect world, I guess in a perfect use case, credit cards can make you a decent amount of money. But anything that gets in the way, any speed bumps you, it instantly turns into a negative transaction. And that's what they're just playing, a giant numbers game, right? Of like, well, we know that only 1 out of 10 people will be financially responsible with this credit card. And therefore, if we average that out, we will make tons of money, right? And I grew up very poor, grew up on welfare and all of that. And so, people are saying like, never get drinks with ice. I always say no ice in my drinks, right? I don't buy drinks a lot, actually, just because I don't like to spend up to $3 at a restaurant, right? I'll drink water most times. However, that being said, when I'm trying to optimize everything. We typically will go pick up pizza, and there are times when delivery. Sorry, my voice is going. When delivery makes sense. Maybe we're doing an event at the warehouse, or we're doing, like when we did the event for the retail store, right? We had the pizza delivered because it was worth it we were all busy with what we were doing to pay and tip to get that done. However, when I'm done live streaming, I could order food, we could make food, or we could go get food. There's 2 out of the 3 options could happen. We'll either go get food, highly unlikely because we already got some pizza earlier, or we'll make some food. My wife will make it. That being said, if she wasn't willing to do it, I would I would have like a can of chili or something. I would find some way to feed myself at a cheaper rate. Um, yeah, I don't know where it was, where I was, I don't know where I was going with that. Corey, would I rather eat off someone else's dirty plate or eat chicken that might be undercooked? I mean, I've eaten undercooked chicken in China just because they cook it that way. Not very appetizing. And then like someone else's dirty plate. I'm assuming it's like someone you don't know. Uh, I've seen people do that, like at pizza parlors where they've left pizza. And on one hand, I can't really fault it for it. I'm like, honestly, most people don't do anything crazy to their food. And like, if you were hungry, it's not that bad, right? Now, if you're like, oh, well, it's macaroni salad that's been sitting in the sun for 9 hours and you're going to get food poisoning, like, well, that's something different, I think. But, I think there's definitely what we might consider to be like, oh, that would be horrible in the US. Like, I don't know, if I was in another country and I was really hungry, probably looks pretty good deal. What was I reading? While you're doing any more in-depth breeding fish for profit videos, I watch the series over and over and crave more knowledge. I don't know. They don't. So part of the problem is YouTube algorithm hates them. For a while, when I was doing them, like everyone and their mom kind of did a breeding fish or plants for profit type of thing. And then also, most of what I say, people are like, no, that's not how it works. I did a thing and it's the exact opposite. It worked out great. But then also, since YouTube doesn't like it, it's like, okay, maybe, well, I was thinking I could do that for like, potentially do it for like a members thing. But then it's like people are just gonna be like, oh, you're putting it behind a paywall. Like, oh, okay. Which I do find kind of a good idea though. Like, oh, you want to make money? You got to pay $5 to learn how to make money. It's Corey's get rich quick scheme. Step 1, don't raise fish. Step 2, get a different job. Step 3, don't order DoorDash. Profit. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are saying they pay their credit cards off every month. Yes, you also have to realize people that are a member are probably at a different, maybe disposable income than your average person. Maybe, I don't know. And then you also have to realize that everyone does that with their best intentions. But let's say I'm that guy that uses a credit card all the time, right? And then I get laid off. Then I'm just a guy that uses a credit card but didn't pay it off, and then that cycle starts. And it's hard for people to get off that cycle, especially when there's fees and all of that. And um, also you have lots of other problems, like let's say you have a job, it pays you X, you overspend a little bit, you get laid off, you keep spending like you have X, you don't, you get a job that pays you Y, which is 10% less than your previous job. Your brain doesn't comprehend well enough to actually make the adjustments needed, so you keep running your household at a 10% negative until it's building up, and now you're paying excess on that, going, oh, we just got to get back on our feet. And the reality is it's really hard to get back on your feet once you're missing some of that. I don't even know who's playing in the Super Bowl, but I am super pumped for the halftime show with Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Dr. Dre, Mary J. Blige, and I don't know who the other guy is. That guy was just like random, of like, why this guy? I never got a credit card till I was like 28, maybe 29. I think it was the year. Actually, I got a credit card so I could start this business, and just not because I needed the credit, but because so many of the ways to pay was credit card from like wholesalers and stuff. And my business and marketing teacher and everything in high school definitely spent a lot of time about credit cards and how predatory they were, and how they make their money and all of that. And so I was able to really understand that. And I never got one out of the fear of like, oh man, it's so easy to fall behind. So that's why I never got one. I never needed one until then, really. Kendrick Lamar. Yes, that's the other person that I didn't know. Which maybe I should know him, but I feel like I knew everybody else from like a certain era, and is he a different era, same era? I don't know. I just didn't know him. I've got a 75-gallon tank with about 40 Mabuna. Should I keep all the males or vice versa for a long-term show tank? You probably want an all-male show tank, so I would say slim down if you need to, but keep it all males. That's usually the easiest. Do you know how stuff for members would be distributed Aquashella? Yeah, you show up and you go, hey, I'm a member, and you show us, and then we go, oh, let's distribute that from my hand to yours. Or Zenzo's hand to yours. Someone will hand one, basically. Corey got a credit card with me a few years before. Got to build credit. That might be true. That might be true. We did get one for the business, though, as well. Yeah, that might be true. It's been a while. We've been, been together a long time. Kendrick Lamar's been big for about 7 or 8 years. Yeah, anything that's happened in the last like 8 or 9 years from when I've had my business, it's like I don't even know it exists. I'm so out of it. Lots of credit card talk. Here we go. Quick question about breeding C. venezuelas cories, so the black cory. How can I get them breeding and spawning? All parameters are in good range based off info from Planet Catfish. So the thing I would say, Thomas, is info from Planet Catfish a lot of times will be representing wild conditions, which doesn't mean that's the best way to spawn them. So you might have them from a different breeder or something like that. So I would try feeding them really, really well, like stupid amounts of food, more than you know. If that doesn't get them spawning, start trying more normal parameters, like, oh, maybe it's 7.2 pH with a little more minerals and things like that, and see if that can't get them kicking off for you. I almost never eat out or buy restaurant food. I can pay a fraction of the price and buy and prepare food for yourself. It's not that difficult. I feel like it is. I really hate cooking and doing all of that. I tell my wife quite frequently, I would rather mow the neighbor's lawn and then go eat somewhere than cook for that same amount of time. That's just how I am. But I am very frugal when I'm out though. Like there's definitely, maybe we should go out to eat for lunch instead of dinner because it's just the same food, maybe smaller portions, but like the same food or same experience for cheaper. When should I be concerned about a pregnant guppy? In relation to like size, maybe? I'm trying to think of. I usually just don't worry about them. Kind of guppies will make more. They kind of just do their thing. How am I going to prevent people from becoming a member in line just to get the free sweatpants? We're not. The reality is people could, and there's so many ways to kind of abuse a business. Like, how do you prevent someone from charging back the whole order? People could order $1,000 worth of stuff. We send it to them and they charge it all back. Then we ban them. And, it's kind of the collective of the world, though. If enough people want to abuse us as a company, we'll go out of business. No matter what we do, there will always be people that take advantage of situations. And we try not to base what we're going to do of like, well, what if someone's going to become a member so they can get $5 sweatpants that they cost us way more than $5. They're like $15. The answer is we probably can't, but there's a ton of other members that are long-standing good members that have pitched in and made all that stuff happen, and we spread the risk out over everybody. And maybe someone really needed a $5 pair of sweatpants and they're going to cherish it. Hey, who am I to say? But yeah, there's advantage can be taken anytime people want, really. If it gets bad enough, we just go out of business. We do what we can to prevent that. Like we would say, and I'm not even sure it's the wrong thing, right? If you become a member and you stay a member for a year or whatever, right? Like, great. That's fine. The people that become a member, show it to us, and then like charge it back with their credit card. Like, okay, I can't stop someone from being a bad human. That's just, there's going to be X amount of those. What color are the sweatpants? I believe they are a dark heather gray, I think. My test strips that started turning pink on the nitrite still in the container. Did I break them? I gotta look at some now. Maybe. My guess, and this is my guess because I don't know this answer, my guess is maybe there's a little moisture getting in there. Like I've got, you got the moisture absorber. I'm not sure. I don't have that going on in any of my, pre-test ones or my new ones or anything like that. So I'm not, my guess is humidity got in there, but it might still test just fine. Murphy flip-flops? Maybe someday. I don't know. What are my personal tips for being frugal? General life expenses or specific examples are fine. Well, one of the things I do every year is every January I go through my corporate accounts and my home accounts and I look at every service I've signed up for over the course of a year and I ask myself, am I actually using this? Should I get rid of this? It's so easy for people to like, well, I've always had that. Like, sure, I'll take another year of HBO, but you might not be, you might not be watching it anymore, which that's a bad example because a lot of people would still be watching it. But, I've got different little apps for business and just stuff of like, and it also lets you go, hey, did that get more expensive? Hey, we better talk to some people about that. That wasn't supposed to get more expensive or whatnot. So that's one of the things, like doing an audit on just recurring expenses. And then for the most part, I'm always looking at value when it comes to food because food is something that pretty much every human has to do. We have to do it a few times a day for the most part. And like I take note when I see something. Like right now, in my opinion, the best food to money ratio that exists, I think, is Popeyes, specifically their chicken sandwich for $3.99. The amount of sheer chicken you get is kind of insane when compared to like anything else fast food. So if I'm going to fast food outside of like, oh man, I really want something different, like the value there is kind of crazy. And then also, like I noticed driving by the other day, they have like a new meal, right? It's like 3 chicken strips, French fries, a side, and a biscuit for $6, right? That seemed to be a pretty good value. Now, that same establishment, you can go order like a 4-piece chicken strip with like French fries. It's like $12, right? So you got to be nimble and pick and choose. And that's any company really. If like there's going to be things that are value and have different profit margins and trying to utilize that. So like I would never buy a soda at Popeyes because they're probably $2.50 or $3. However, if you were to go to McDonald's, which I like never do, but if I did, you can still get like a giant soda for $1 with no ice. And so if you were on a long road trip, hey, let me stop and get that dollar soda, right? Maybe that's a thing for you. But yeah, food is one thing that I like to focus on, and I try to find, well, can I get multiple meals out of this? Can I, like, I like Domino's pizza. I just happen to like it. You can get a medium pizza for like $7. That's for most people 2 to 3 meals, and the fact you get 2 or 3 meals out of $7 is a pretty good value, depending, at least in our part of the country. In Washington, food stuff's expensive, and so I do look at that kind of stuff too, just to get when I'm pricing products and all that kind of stuff. If a Big Mac here is now almost $7, well, maybe it's not in North Carolina. It's only 4, right? So there's some disparity there. But I'm sure there's other, just other things that I try and do that I don't realize. Because there's definitely things I'll spend money on, and it's like, that's so stupid. And I think everyone needs to spend money on stuff that's like, that's so stupid. But you have to weigh it in the value to you, right? So an expensive fish tank, that's so stupid. Why would you spend money on that? But you might get 1,000 hours of entertainment out of it. Where someone else might go to the movies and buy popcorn and a candy bar and that, and they spend $50, and you're like, that's so stupid, right? So there can be disproportionate value based on what the person feels about it, right? And so, like, I tend to buy expensive chairs, but I only ever have to buy them like once. And so they last a really long time, and I try and take care of them. So, but initially they are expensive. I don't like that. But let's see. So I was at a recent swap and someone was reselling a bunch of co-op stuff. I think the guy was getting out of the hobby, was wondering, how do I feel about this? If they're just getting out of the hobby, I say, yeah, more power to you. Resell it. Get your, I would hope it's the same price or less, but I wouldn't fault anyone. Like, let's say I bought a car, right? And I have a Subaru. And now I'm done with that Subaru, which I'm not. I love that car. But let's say I was done. I don't think Subaru would be angry like, that guy is going to sell that car. Like, well, I paid full price or whatever when I bought it. I've used it some, and now it still has value. I'm going to sell it. And it's like a sponge filter, right? Okay, it's still got life left in it. I do get irritated when I watch people resell our stuff for more. And the only reason I really get irritated about that is I worry that it makes us look expensive. So, like, we know there's some stores that will buy our product. Let's say they buy this, right? And they sell it in their store for $30. Like, people will think Aquarium Co-op, oh, those are expensive. And they may never buy them. And they just go, oh, Aquarium Co-op sells expensive test strips. Like, no, it's like half that price, right? So we don't like that. But legally, I'm not sure we can stop it. If they pay retail from us, short of if we identify who they are, we can choose not to sell to them. But if we can't identify who they are, and then, well, it just kind of happens. Very much so. Saving money now doesn't mean save in the long run. It's true. I also know that you can't always just buy the most expensive best thing, because maybe I love this chair now, but in 2 weeks I hate this chair, or I want a different chair, or I want a different car, or whatever. So I usually will ease myself into something, going, okay, let's see if I'm even going to like that. Okay, I'm really enjoying this. I should probably buy a better version when this thing goes kaput or whatever, right? And, a good example, I really tried, like with books. It seemed impractical of like, why would I spend like $20 for a book like The Comfort Crisis when I can buy the Audible version or the Kindle version for like $1 or $1.99. So I bought a Kindle, like whatever the best one was, and I bought a book, and I hate reading on a Kindle compared to a physical book. And so that'd be an example where I've wasted like 150 some odd dollars, and I don't like it. And now it makes sense for me to spend $20 on a book that I'll actually read, as opposed to, a Kindle that I won't use. 700 totes at $450 each, Coke with no ice. And then you laugh. That's kind of what my mom does to me. And my response is always, because I get Coke with no ice, I can afford the expensive totes. Like, that's, to me, it's everything in life is trade-off, right? You're trading hours for money, right? If you're doing that, okay, well, maybe I'm trading slightly warmer soda so that I could have more of something else. And so you're making all these constant slight trade-offs. And if you do enough trades where you come out 1/100th of a percent better, eventually you got a lot of percents built up that does buy that. Like the totes in my fish room, no doubt, are expensive, and I feel like they were a big, like, I think when we bought them all, it was like $10,000. It was a lot. But I use them every day. I interact with them every day. And it is, like so often I will bring a soda with me or something to drink when I know I'm going on the road, instead of like, oh, we know so often when we have meetings, right? So it'll be myself, Randy, my business partner, other managers. I will have sodas on hand and go, no, don't buy sodas. Like, get the food you want, but we have sodas here. Like, we have a stocked fridge. And so it's things like that. It's not making you rich overnight, right? It's it's a long-term goal. And it's all on scale, but if you can find a way to shave a few percentage points on the money you're spending routinely, you can gear up and save. Like, oh, that math might work on 7 totes. Like, yeah, sure. But also, like, we first originally, what we bought? We bought like 8 totes, and then I bred fish, and those totes made money, and those paid for more totes, right? And then you make videos about those totes, and that makes some money, and that buys some more totes. And not everyone's got those means, but it's the same logic in, okay, well, I legit wear my underwear till I have holes in it. I'm legit wearing $13 sweats from Costco right now, right? I I try to do these things and get some longevity out of stuff that maybe I'm pushing it too far. It's like I've got a Harbor Freight like a free measuring tape, because you get a coupon, right? So sure. I also own some other tape measures. I have one that was like $30, but I know that I lose these too often. Where did I set that thing? And so I needed more. I get the free ones. And it's not, no one little thing is going to change your life dramatically. And even if you saved enough money by saving ice and getting yourself a tote, that's not going to make a big impact. But over the course of 10 years of making choices, you might go, well, turns out I got this thing for free because of all these choices I made, or these choices opened up this to invest me into something else, right? And that investment could be a good pair of shoes, could be anything that will change your life. So yeah, can't fill a bucket without the first drop. It's true. Just know this, by the way, not everything pans out. You could, save all that money and you buy that Kindle, and the Kindle's a terrible investment for me. Might be great for you. You can't always know, but what I know is I got the chance to experience the Kindle because of that mentality. I probably could have borrowed one from someone else, something like that. And the reality is I saw Randy using it in Peru, and he's always on that thing. He's loving it. I'm like, man, yeah, I could get some more reading in if I had that. But it wasn't for me. So, yeah. Uh-oh, something's also a tax write-off. Yeah, I feel like my own personal opinion is that people who say that's a tax write-off doesn't really understand what tax write-offs are. Like, so let's say it's $1 soda, right? You buy one from McDonald's. We can write that off as a business, right? And then 100% of that will be used, and we won't have to pay tax on that dollar we spent. So we spent $1, right? It means that at the end of the day, that dollar never goes to employee, it never goes to me as an owner, it went to McDonald's. Or I buy this can of soda at Costco and it costs me 33 cents, right? And I do buy sodas at Costco, and we stock fridges and all of that stuff at the warehouse or retail store in here, right? And so that 33 cents we'll never get. It'll never go to employee, never go to me, nothing like that. And Costco gets the 33 cents. The difference is there's now 67 cents available that could go somewhere else. And yes, if it comes to me, it's going to get taxed, and it's not as much of a tax write-off. But at the end of the day, with one soda, right? One soda from McDonald's versus this, I might end up with 20 cents in my pocket because I chose to take a Diet Coke out of the fridge as opposed to the McDonald's soda. Now I realize there are different amounts of sodas and all of that, and that you're going, 20 cents, what's that do? Well, what's that do on thousands of decisions every month in a business or a home where you go, maybe I shouldn't buy that. Maybe I can get another month out of this. Maybe I should wait till that breaks. Maybe I should do that. And it does add up over time. And I just find that a lot of people go, you can write that off. Like, that doesn't mean that money didn't get spent. It still means that it got spent, and sometimes there's still just a better decision. The better decision is to do this as opposed to that. So, almost over. I finally saw my goldfish eat cold cherry shrimp. I thought they were cool, just leaving them to breed. Will this hurt them? I don't think so. You might get a little bit better coloration out of that goldfish, and I don't think they have hard enough exoskeletons or anything that'll be a problem. I mean, it'll hurt the shrimp and that they won't be living anymore, um, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Kind of like membership. It saves a ton of money when shopping at the co-op. The reality is you're only saving more money if you spend over $100 at the co-op each month. That being said, you might get knowledge from one of the speakers that allows you to breed a fish and make money. It might give you entertainment. That's the biggest thing that I try to impart on people is for $5 a month, let's say all you did was watch the hour-and-a-half long talk on something you're interested in. It's, for me, at least in Washington, it's really hard to buy 90 minutes of entertainment for $5. Now, if you attend any of the other like member shows we're doing each week and we put out like a video or two once a month, you might cobble up like 5 hours of entertainment. So now you're paying $1 per hour of entertainment. There's not very many facets for me to get that. Now, that being said, Netflix will do that. HBO would probably do that. But a lot of us, myself included, have you ever hit the end of Netflix like, oh, there's nothing good to watch? Like, there's not an infinite amount. Close. There's a lot of stuff, but it's not infinite. My wife teases me about wearing clothing items until they have holes and are falling apart, including shoes and underwear. To me, it's just oh, it's got a hole? That's now a painting shirt, or I'm going to get dirty shirt. Or, oh, those shoes have holes in them? I'll wear those while I'm in Peru because I don't want to buy other shoes to do that, right? So I try to categorize everything, and it's not always good. Sometimes it will hold you up from making a smarter decision in life because you're too frugal. Right? It's just the way I am and the way I'll probably always be. And I don't force on other people though. So I think I've told the story before, but when we flew to Peru, I went and bought a sandwich from Jersey Mike's, had them cut it into thirds, package them all separately so that I could have a sandwich like while waiting to get on a plane. And then at the next layover, I had the other third of the sandwich. And I think I had both actually because it was like a 4-hour layover or something. But however, the business did buy for everybody else that went with us. They had like ribs and other stuff. And, they thought I was crazy. And I'm like, yes, but airport food sucks. It's overpriced. I already know this going into it. We already know we're going to pay, like, you're going to get a $10 bagel sandwich that is dry and 2 days too old and all that crap, right? For $10. And you're going to be like, oh, of course you're out of mayonnaise or whatever, whatever the problem's going to be. Or I can go and buy something that will taste really good. Usually I will save money. And in this case, they were spending like $20 to $30 per plate for ribs and other stuff. And the takeaway was like, yeah, it's all right. Whereas I knew I had something I liked, the same type of sandwich I liked, the way I like it, and it cost me like $10 or $11. And I had food in case, because I've been stranded before, like in Europe and stuff, where you get stuck on a plane, you can't eat because you can't deplane and delays and all that. But that's my value scale. My value scale is that, well, I'll come prepared. I know how I like to travel. I also always have a Snickers in my backpack as like an emergency thing because I've been stuck on planes for hours too many times to count. And I always want something to drink because in really bad turbulence, they're like, sorry, can't give you anything to drink right now, sir. And you're like really thirsty. And but yeah, so they think I'm crazy because I'm willing to save $20 on a $20,000 trip to Peru and all of that. But my logic is the reason we can afford to go to Peru is because all of these decisions we make like this, where we drink soda out of a can as opposed to the restaurant that we're bringing stuff back from. And that's what allows us to do that, because I don't think we could afford to do all of the things all the time. We have to make choices. Would I rather drink a Diet Coke from a can and go to Peru? Or would I rather drink $3 soda at a restaurant and not go to Peru? I think the decision's easy to me. Cliff Bars, we do Cliff Bars when we go to Peru. We bring Cliff Bars with us. But normally those are in like, there was some, I actually handed some Cliff Bars out to people. But, you know, when you go to Peru, 13 hours, it's like a long time. There is something to, I just want some real food and that kind of logic too. So I don't, you know, I don't force other people to go the way that I go. I just try to live my own way and go, oh, okay, well, this is the way I do it. So. How long did it take me to go from 100 to 500 subs, and then to 1,000? I have no idea, Guppy Beast. It was so long ago that I know getting to 1,000 was a big deal, but I don't know how long it took without like traveling way back in the machine to like look. Um, yeah, that's a scarcity mindset. Revenue fixes everything, but to each their own. Yeah, why doesn't every business just make $10 trillion a year? No problem at all. The problem is everything is scarce. There's only so much commerce. There's only so many buyers. And yes, you could make more buyers. You can gobble up more buyers. But from what I see way more people going, let's make more money. Let's invest more money into ads with a positive ROI in Facebook and just print money. And somehow their businesses don't continue on. And I see very few people that are doing more conservative moves like packing your own lunch on a plane. So, but yes, by all means, everyone run the business in your life however you would like to. I really only have impact on the people around me and myself. So, eh. Let's see. Sometimes I just want to eat something that feels like a meal rather than eating for nutrients. And that goes back to the value of like, am I getting more value out of this? Like maybe on a super hot day, you want that dollar Diet Coke or whatever it is with ice in it, and you see the value in that. There is something to that. But I find most people, not most, I find a lot of people, they don't even consider those things. So they're not seeing the benefit of like, oh yeah, that's nice. They just take it for granted. And most things when I'm really taking it for granted, I try to go, hey, I'm taking this for granted. Do I need this anymore? Am I doing this the right way? That type of thing. It'd be like having 7 screens. Sometimes I go, you know what? This is using more power than if I don't have 7 screens. Maybe I don't need this. And then you whittle down to 2. And then I go, oh my gosh, now I'm having this problem, this problem, this problem. And I get more screens back out. I set them more back. I set them up. But that's one way I can see, am I just crazy right now? Do I need this? Take it away. Am I missing it? Ooh, I might need that. Suggestions for your 55-gallon setup? I'm open to anything. Get yourself some Congo Tetras. I'm missing those the most lately. Let's see here. Watching old videos got me thinking, when are you jumping back in Corey's pond? Yeah, I want to clean that pond out some more. Having 3 screens on my main PC going mobile with my laptop is rough. I legit bring screens with me with my laptop. I have, well, I could probably grab it. I'll show you what I have. One of the screens I use here also is mobile. One sec. Costco pants. So I bring this screen with me when I go on vacation. This is my vacation screen, and like I've used this with Excel spreadsheets and stuff. And because when I go on vacation, I still have to have business meetings, and so it's really hard to have like Excel open and like a Zoom call or something open and be like studying the material in real time. Because if you're just sitting there watching what they present, you don't get to dig and go, but wait a second, that math doesn't work out on this thing all the time. Or, not all the time, but like at all. And so something like this was like $150, and I only use it like once a year-ish. Well, besides sometimes I use it over there. Um, but it really can increase your work if you're working remotely. Like if I'm uh, doing almost anything, like working on the website or something, you might need to see some data and also be working at the same time, cross-referencing. How do I program that? How do I do this? Um, but yeah, just a little screen like this is pretty awesome. You can also, like, a lot of people use this for like, you could use it in a van or something and play video games. But yeah, something like these mobile screens, it has a case that goes on it so it'll hold itself and all that. But you can also, this is one of the few ones you can actually mount to a Versa mount. And so this is a popular way some streamers will do it, where you could have just small screens right off camera that might have, like streamer donations and other stuff, so you can compartmentalize some of the stuff you need to do. You can also use this as a monitor with a camera, so you can see the full, like, so if you're filming and you're looking at a camera, you want to see maybe framing. Am I in the frame? Is it, is it focusing? All of that kind of stuff. So, but just tools of, what I use to get some of my work done. All right, we're 10 minutes over. I should probably start wrapping it up. Definitely about getting a decent mobile setup. Spending 12 hours on campus with 7 hours of free time this semester is going to drive me crazy. Yeah, so I put a lot of value in optimizing work. So you might find like, oh, using an iPad with a Bluetooth keyboard works really well. You might find that a laptop is going to work very well for you, or a different style of laptop. I don't like touchscreen laptops. I've got all these little quirks that I do and don't like, and I usually like my travel laptop that I use. It's as light as possible, so it's not weighing me down while I'm trying to get through the airport and all of that. And I would think same thing if you're on campus that much. I typically go with a 14-inch kind of screen is what I like. And but yeah, right tools, setting yourself up for success, and just getting the most out of everything. That's what I can do. All right. PetSmart has Congos at $2.50 under, cutting all the stores in half. Yeah, that's $2.50 for a Congo Tetra. That's cheaper than I buy them for. Nice. Yeah, definitely. Like when we first started the store, we would go to PetSmart and buy fish because they were cheaper. I remember we'd go and buy clown loaches. We'd buy clown loaches. Not all the time, but sometimes, right? We'd go buy clown loaches. We'd buy roseline sharks, and we would buy marigold variatus platies. So the platies would be $1. The clown loaches would be normally $9.99, but they put them half off, $5 clown loaches, and I get to see them, see if they're healthy. And same with the roselines. The roselines were $5 when my cost from wholesale was like 12 or 13. And so I would buy them, put them into quarantine, make sure they're super healthy, and then put them for sale eventually. I found angelfish fry with black ram eggs. Nice. Got a lot of brine shrimp hatchet coming up. All right, I'm gonna call it. That way I can unwind, watch some TV, eat some dinner, do all those fun things, and that way I still have enough energy to hit everybody up next week and do it again. Just went through ick outbreak in my 75 community tank. Let me just say I'm never going through that again with one specimen container. Oh, because yeah, you don't want to cross-contaminate. I could see. Another plant shipment tonight. Watch the website tomorrow. Yep. Most likely it'll probably be entered in around 11 a.m. is my guess, Pacific Standard Time. But yeah, there's another shipment that'll be dropped off tonight, put away tomorrow more. Well, depends. It might be more towards the noon because we'll be shipping stuff, and then a team breaks off to be putting plants away and stuff too. So it's not. Yeah. In a perfect world, they'd be entering towards the end of today, but they just the the thing didn't happen. As Steamfod Aquatic says, wrap it up, buddy. Wrap it up. We're done here. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. I will see members in the live stream. I think we're doing it on Thursday at noon. If I've got an appointment that could spring on me, but so far hasn't done that to us. We haven't had to reschedule. See you guys on Thursday. Otherwise, I'll see most people probably next week. Thanks for hanging out. And as always, thanks for the support. Whether you're a member, whether you're buying from us, whether you're just liking our stuff, hanging out, all good. And hopefully we'll see you at one of the events coming up. See you guys later.